Hi, welcome. Today is December 4th, 2025. Here is the latest update on the funding for Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa devastated the island. Don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into it. In late October 2025, Hurricane Melissa, one of the most powerful storms recorded in the Atlantic, slammed into Jamaica, unleashing catastrophic floods, landslides, and widespread damage. The storm left communities devastated, with thousands displaced, infrastructure ruined, and critical services disrupted. But in the aftermath, a wave of solidarity, from global institutions to grassroots charities, has emerged to help Jamaica recover. This is how the world is stepping up in the face of tragedy. The scale of the damage. The destruction inflicted by Melissa was immense. Flooding and landslides battered many Jamaican parishes, overwhelming roads and cutting off communities. Homes, schools, health facilities, and other vital infrastructure were severely damaged. In response, the island's existing disaster risk financing mechanisms triggered immediate funds, enabling urgent relief even before long-term reconstruction began. But relief would need far more than emergency payouts. Rebuilding and resilience building would demand major support. The big international package, $6.7 billion United States dollars for recovery. One of the most significant developments in the recovery effort is a massive support package coordinated by major international institutions, CAF, Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, World Bank Group, WBG, Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, Inter-American Development Bank Group, IDB Group, and International Monetary Fund, IMF. The total package amounts to up to $6.7 billion United States dollars over 3 years, aimed at supporting Jamaica's recovery and reconstruction efforts. Of that, up to $3.6 billion United States dollars could go directly into the government's recovery and infrastructure rebuilding programs, including resilient national and community infrastructure, support for small businesses, and restoring essential services. The funding sources are diverse. Up to $1 billion United States dollars each from CAF, IDB and World Bank, $200 million United States dollars from the CDB, and a potential $415 million United States dollars loan from the IMF under its rapid financing window for natural disasters. On top of that, private sector mobilization is part of the plan. Institutions like IDB Invest and the WBG's private sector arms, example, IFC, MIGA, are working to generate about $2.4 billion United States dollars in private investments to contribute to reconstruction efforts. This large-scale commitment underscores the global acknowledgement that rebuilding Jamaica will require sustained, multi-year effort, not just immediate relief. Immediate relief and humanitarian aid. While long-term reconstruction is underway, immediate needs, food, water, shelter, medical care, have been pressing. A number of organizations have rushed to provide support. The United Nations (UN), through its Central Emergency Response Fund, CERF, mobilized $4 million United States dollars to support relief efforts across the hardest-hit parishes. This funding is being channeled through agencies like UNICEF, International Organization for Migration (IOM), Pan American Health Organization, World Health Organization (PAHO), WHO, and World Food Programme (WFP). UNICEF has delivered relief supplies, including water storage tanks, hygiene kits, safe drinking water, emergency shelter items, that is tarps, tents, educational materials, and school in a box kits, reaching tens of thousands of children and families. Health support has also been a priority. As many as 124 health care facilities in Jamaica were damaged. To address that, the Pan American Health Organization deployed emergency medical teams (EMTs) delivering critical medical supplies, restoring services, and providing mental health and psychosocial support. In addition to institutional aid, private donors and nonprofits are contributing. For example, AIDS Healthcare Foundation (AHF) pledged $300,000 United States dollars in supplies, generators, water purification tablets, food kits, medical equipment, hygiene and sanitary products, targeted at the hardest-hit western and southern parishes such as Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon. Local and diaspora-led fundraising efforts have also been activated. For example, the Jamaica National Group (JN Group) reactivated its I Support Jamaica Fund, for urgent relief and rebuilding. Why it matters. Building resilience, not just rebuilding. Beyond repairing damage, many of the relief funding efforts are designed to help Jamaica emerge stronger and more resilient to future disasters. The 3-year international support package, combined with investments in infrastructure, community development, and private sector involvement, is intended to do more than restore what was lost. It aims to transform vulnerability into preparedness. Moreover, rapid disbursement of funds, both domestic and international, has helped avoid delays that often plague disaster response. Jamaica's pre-existing disaster risk financing mechanisms, including contingency funds, insurance coverage, catastrophe bonds, and contingent credit lines, allowed immediate liquidity for urgent needs as soon as the disaster struck. But most importantly, the combined efforts of international agencies, governmental and non-governmental organizations, private donors, and local initiatives reflect a global solidarity with Jamaica, a solidarity that recognizes not only the destruction wrought by climate-fueled disasters but the human cost endured by communities. What still needs to be done and how people can help? Despite the massive funding pledges, long-term reconstruction, rebuilding homes, restoring schools, rebuilding infrastructure, and reviving economies will take years. Accountability, transparency, and effective coordination will be essential. Continued humanitarian support is still crucial, especially for those displaced, families who lost everything, children needing education and psychosocial support, and communities whose livelihoods farming, fishing, small business were destroyed. International attention must remain. Reconstruction should be strategic, focusing on resilience to climate change and future hurricanes. Encouraging private sector investment alongside public funding can help rebuild more resilient infrastructure and revive local economies. Individuals around the world can help by donating to trusted relief funds, supporting vetted nonprofits working on the ground, and amplifying awareness to ensure that the needs of affected communities stay visible until recovery is complete. Hurricane Melissa was a devastating blow to Jamaica, but the response has been swift and significant. From immediate life-saving aid to a multi-billion-dollar recovery and reconstruction plan, the world is showing up for Jamaica. As the island begins the long process of rebuilding, this moment offers an opportunity not just to restore what was lost, but to build back smarter, stronger, and more resilient against future storms. What's already happening under Prime Minister Andrew Holness's plan? Holness announced a new building support program to assist the parishes and constituencies most severely affected by Melissa. Under this plan, constituencies in hardest-hit parishes get larger allocations. Example, roughly $10 million per constituency for the worst-hit areas, less for others. For housing, the National Housing Trust (NHT) has activated special support for contributors and mortgage holders affected by the hurricane, a 6-month moratorium on mortgage payments for homeowners in heavily impacted parishes, a low-interest home repair loan up to $3.5 million Jamaican dollars, at 2% interest for home rebuilding repairs, and a special grant up to 500,000 Jamaican dollars for those whose homes, or those of immediate family members, were damaged. The government says that donated relief funds specifically earmarked for hurricane response, the ones going to Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, have not yet been spent, at least as of the latest update. Meanwhile, other pre-existing disaster risk instruments, insurance, catastrophe bond drawdowns, contingency funds, credit lines, have already been activated to provide early liquidity and immediate support, especially for urgent needs like food, water, shelter, emergency relief. On the logistics governance side, Holness has moved the disaster response coordination so that ODPEM reports to the Prime Minister's office, meant to streamline delivery, improve speed, and centralize decision-making to ensure aid reaches affected communities faster. In his own words, Holness said Jamaica's disaster risk financing framework permitted a rapid early response, giving liquidity, fiscal space and a multi-year investment framework to rebuild stronger. What the big international relief, and Holness's long-term plan, aims to fund. Because the damage from Hurricane Melissa is enormous, with estimated physical losses of around $8.8 billion for Jamaica. Through Holness's request, a consortium of major institutions, CAF, Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, Caribbean Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank Group, International Monetary Fund, World Bank Group, has assembled a $6.7 billion package over 3 years for recovery and reconstruction. Up to US $3.6 billion from that package is earmarked as sovereign financing for the Jamaican government's recovery and reconstruction program, including rebuilding resilient infrastructure, community-level rebuilding, small business support, restoring essential services, water, electricity, sanitation, etc. Holness emphasizes that this rebuilding isn't just about restoring what was, but building back better. He said that every repaired bridge, re-roofed home and rebuilt road must be designed for the storms of tomorrow, that is, resilience against future disasters. The long-term plan also involves stabilizing and revitalizing livelihoods, restoring schools, public services, transport routes, community facilities, supporting small businesses and farmers, rebuilding homes, and rehabilitating devastated communities. Holness described the financing package as unprecedented, and said the speed at which the international community mobilized support, within a month of the hurricane, was historic. What this means for ordinary Jamaicans or those affected. For people whose homes or businesses were damaged, there is structured support to repair or rebuild homes via NHT, mortgage relief for a time, grants, and low-interest loans. For communities, the plan aims to restore infrastructure, roads, bridges, water, electricity, reopen schools and public services, rebuild communal buildings, but with an emphasis on resilience to better withstand future storms. For the broader economy, by combining government, international, and private sector funding, the aim is to revive livelihoods in agriculture, small business, tourism, and rebuild with an eye toward long-term economic and climate resilience. What's still uncertain? What Holness has acknowledged in the latest update. According to a recent update, none of the donated funds in the ODPEM relief accounts have yet been spent, procurement plans are still being developed. The scale of destruction is so large, damages roughly 28 to 32% of Jamaica's GDP, per Holness's statement. Because of that scale, Holness warned that the cost will push up Jamaica's debt-to-GDP ratio, prompting temporary suspension of some fiscal rules. Implementation, coordination, and transparency will be crucial. Mobilizing billions from international lenders is one thing, making sure funds are used effectively, equitably, and quickly is another, especially given the many affected parishes, remote communities cut off by destroyed infrastructure, and urgent humanitarian needs. There is your update on the Hurricane Melissa funding for Jamaica and Jamaicans. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Please follow us on all social media platforms. Subscribe, like, comment, and share.